Howdy. If you're anything like me, you've been on vacation 10 hours from your destination and have been looking out the window and wondering, hey, in this modern day and age, can we not travel a little bit faster? I want to be on vacation. Why is this flight taking so dang long? Well, back in the 1950s, an engineer had that idea, and instead of being, a normal person, he decided he wanted to go and develop that and inspire a 3 decade long arms race to produce the first supersonic passenger jet. Today, I'd like to talk to you about the development, characteristics, and politics behind the eventual failure of the first major supersonic passenger jet, the Concorde. Development started on the Concorde back in the 1950s when a man named Arnold Hall created a committee dedicated to the exploration of the idea of a supersonic transport plane. This committee prompted the powers that be during the Cold War to all develop their own supersonic transport aircraft. Namely, the Soviet Union, the Americans, and what would become a European joint effort, as symbolized by the name Concorde, which means union, between the French and the English. The Americans ended up withdrawing and never produced anything. The Soviet aircraft never became a big commercial, icon. So the British were really the only person / nation to produce anything. What they produced was a technological masterpiece, using innovations in turbojets, computers, and a revolutionary concept called delta wings. They were able to produce an aircraft that could carry over 150 people and fly supersonic while having the range to cross the Atlantic. This aircraft sounds pretty technologically amazing, but what was it like to fly on it? Well, the aircraft was fast, but it had a couple of downsides. Firstly, the seats were very small. For paying a lot of money, as tickets were, on that airplane, we'll get to that later, you got about the same size as a small economy seat in modern standards, which during the 1950s was absolutely tiny. In addition, the windows on the airplane were about the size of a modern smartphone, which if you've ever flown on an airplane, that is pretty small. But in exchange for these features, you got ultra high class luxury treatment, and your flight took 3 hours instead of the typical 11. This all sounds pretty good, but why aren't we flying on these airplanes today if they're so great? Well, unfortunately, politics and economics ruined it again. This Concorde would create a sonic boom when it was traveling at high speeds, which had the power to shatter windows and set off car alarms in big cities. Thus, every country in the world that could host a supersonic airplane promptly banned it from flying over its country. This reduced routes dramatically. As a matter of fact, there were only 2 routes that the Concorde really ever flew on past its marketing tour. 1, New York to London. 2, New York to Paris, which were conveniently the 2 countries that built it to New York. This limited routing caused all the airlines that purchased the airplane to withdraw all their orders. And in the end, only 20 Concordes were made, and they were owned by the British Aircraft Corporation, which is owned by the British government, and Air France, which is owned by the French government. Oddly enough, both the countries that built the plane. In addition, despite the national governments that built the plane subsidizing the entire cost of it, tickets were still ridiculously expensive. They cost a lot of money because the Concorde, traveling so fast, burnt a ton of fuel. Well, a standard first class ticket at the time would cost around $1,000, which is a pretty penny to pay for a flight ticket, but is reasonable. a Concorde ticket would cost upwards of $12,000, which meant that a lot of people did not want to pay the price for a couple hours of their time. Due to falling demand, rising gas prices, and a tragic disaster that happened in 2001, the planes ended up being retired in 2003, ending a 40-year-long career, of which no airline actually made a profit running them. Let's review. So, in the 1950s, an engineer was dedicated his life to making airplanes fly faster. Yet, over time, it proved to be not feasible. How can we use this in our personal lives? Well, we all hold on to these ideas that we probably take too far and are too dedicated to. Thus, we must sometimes remember that the idea might need to sometimes be changed or altered. And in conclusion, next time you're on a flight and you catch yourself thinking, why can't we fly a little bit faster? Ask yourself, would I rather pay 12 times the price for the ticket? Thank you.